What's up guys, my name's Alka, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over all of the roles in Rainbow Six Siege, what operators fit into those roles, and what roles you should play. So the first role that I'm going to go over is hard support. Now there is hard support and there's soft support, but hard support is the support that I'm going to go over first. Hard support are people that are meant to get walls open or keep walls closed. So your hard breachers and your wall deniers. Thermite, Ace, Hibana, Maverick, or on defense, Cade, Bandit, Mute, or people like Smoke, who are just having supporting utility meant for entry denial as well. Tachanka, Goyo, Mira, all hard supports. What defines a hard support on attack is very cut and dry, it's just hard breachers. But what defines hard supports on defense is a bit different. It's people that have entry denial, that are anchors that typically sit on site, and they use your utility to keep players out of the objective. So people like Bandit, Cade, Mira, Smoke, Tachanka, Goyo, like I said. Now, typically, if you don't have the best gun skill, but you're pretty good at using your utilities sparingly, you know how to Bandit trick, you know how to actually use Thermite correctly, you know how to Cade trick, and you like playing the game slowly and sitting on site, hard support is probably the role for you. For me, when I was on a comp team, I played hard/soft support for a while, not because I had dog-ass aim, but just because I liked the idea of using utility and opening up lines of sights for my team, because I knew how to control the map and where to push. If you're a fragger, you don't have to worry about shit like that. You just get droned in by your supports, and you get frags using your positioning and your mechanical game sense. So I'll go over that later, but essentially hard support is mainly utility focused and not very gunfight focused. And then, of course, like I just said, we have secondary support. So secondary supports are the Thatchers to your Thermites. They're the Osas to your Aces, right? So these are all people that provide support or utility to their hard supports to help them get the wall open. So a good example, right? Thatcher, he's a secondary support in a lot of cases, or Hibana can be a secondary support, right? Because usually Hibana isn't your only hard breach on the map. Usually you'll have a Thermite or an Ace, and then you'll have a Hibana for the hatches or for a backside push that can be used to get other pieces of the wall, or like getting a Mira open, stuff like that. That's a secondary support. They're the hard breacher that's typically less important and breaches the walls second to the main breach that gets opened on the main push. A good example is a primary support like an Ace would get open the study wall in Villa to map room and to bar, while the secondary support, a Hibana or somebody with hard breaching charges, would get the 90 wall open while everything else is going on in the main part of the map. Or a Thatcher to a Thermite would also be a secondary support because they're helping out the primary support, which would be the Thermite. The same rules apply when it comes to these types of people. If you're more of like a flex, I kind of do what the team needs, this role probably supports you more, as there are a lot more people who just select hard breach because the team needs it than there are people who are just selecting what the team needs in general. I will say this position requires a little bit more game sense because you have to know what the team needs and you have to be able to flex and like change what you're doing and how you're playing mid-round depending on if your Thatcher fucks up getting the wall open, or like if you see that they have a Cade and you didn't see it in prep phase and now you have to like use your EMPs differently or you have to drone differently. So you kind of need a little bit more game sense for this position, especially if your hard breacher dies and now your role has just gone out of the window. You need to be also able to have gunfights and have a little bit more mechanical skill. So I will say compared to primary hard breaches is a more of a skilled role and a little harder to play, to be honest, than these actual hard breacher, but still just as important for winning the round. Examples of this on defense would be Mute, Aruni, Wamai, Castle, and Warden. They don't really make it to where people can't enter the objective by closing off walls or having entry denial, but they still definitely support and stopping the attacker rush with their utility and provide a lot of utility along the way. So that's kind of just what the secondary support is. On defense, there's not like really much of a definition of what a secondary support is. It's more of an attack thing, but just to give you a few examples of what they could be. The next role that you have is going to be flank watch. Now this is only a thing that you can really have on attack, so there aren't really going to be many defender examples. Examples of this role include Gridlock, Nomad, Zero, pretty much anything that has cameras or any utility that can watch flanks. This is a very niche role. In higher levels of play and in competitive levels of play, Pro League, Challenger League, stuff like that, you don't often see this role because people just have cutoff cameras and they actually use drones for their flanks, and even sometimes claymores. They don't actually waste an entire operator using this. But in solo queue ranked, you can't trust your teammates to watch cutoff cams once they die, or to even set up cutoff cameras in general. So you kind of have to take over that role. It's more of a ranked role than it is a comp role. So if you're watching this and you play comp, you don't really need to worry about this as much unless you're on a map like Cafe or Chalet where you really need flank watch. But that's just an attack role. It's just those three operators that I can really think of right now. But yeah, that is the flank watch role. Going into the next role is just going to be an entry/fragger player. So entries on attack look like playing Ash, Twitch, Nock, Zofia, Ying, Amaru, Yana, and Grim. These are all people that focus their utility on just killing people. Blitz too. But their entire thing is they go in and they get frags and they take space by killing people instead of taking space by getting utility like your primary or secondary supports would do. I mean, they're the people with the best weapons in the game. Their utility helps them get kills, right? Zofia has stuns to help her get kills. Blitz has a shield to help him get kills. Nook has an ability that helps her sneak around the map to get kills. Glaz, great example. Twitch has an F2 to help her get kills. So things along that nature. You could say that Twitch is a flex. Same thing for Grim. It doesn't really matter. We'll go over the flex role in a minute. But people who are just solely meant to get kills are the people that belong in this position. And then for defenders, when it comes to fragging, you have Doc, Rook, which again could be flex, Capcan, Jaeger, Mozzie, Vigil, Alibi, Ella, Cav, Oryx, Thorn, Solus, and maybe Valkyrie, depending on how you play her. So again, right, utility mainly meant to get kills, like Vigil and Mozzie. Very selfish utility, only meant to where you can't get droned, which helps you get kills on defense because information is the one thing that helps attackers roam clear you. So being able to deny that will actually help you roam better and get you more kills efficiently. Things like Cav, where you just sneak up on people and it helps you get kills. You get interrogation, which helps you get more kills, right? Oryx, dashing into shields, going at patches for flanks, dashing for flanks, helps you get kills, right? So very selfish utility in a sense, but that is essentially what the fragger does. Now, on defense, somebody that is a fragger slash entry slash roamer are all the same role. And I will say, despite what the name says and despite what you may instinctively think this role does, this role specifically on defense is not actually meant to get kills. This role is meant to waste time. If you're a roamer and you waste 1.5 to 2 minutes of the enemy's time because they're sitting there trying to kill you and roam clear you and drone you and get you out of the position that you're holding them in, you've done your job. Even if you get 0 kills, and your team is down in numbers, if you waste so much time, then they only have 1 minute to 30 seconds to get in sight and kill the rest of your players and they use your utility, you've done your job. Now, if you get 2 kills on the roam and you only wasted 30 seconds and you spawn peek, it doesn't matter because then they have 2.5 minutes to catch up and use your utility and pressure your anchors to be able to win the round. And it's a lot easier to isolate 1v1s on attack by only peeking certain players and doing certain things and baiting the defenders than it is to do that on defense. So as a roamer, your main job, I will repeat this, is to waste your time, not to get kills. I would honestly rather somebody play their life and die for 1.5 minutes than get 2 kills and waste 30 seconds of the enemy's time. Now for attack, it's the complete opposite. You want to be taking space and you want to be getting kills as fast as possible. Now, you don't want to focus on getting kills as much as you want to focus on taking space. If you're droning in and you see no one's in an entire part of the map, go ahead and rush in and take that part of the map so that the only way they can regain the control of the map is by killing you. Now, of course, you're supposed to kill them if they ever get in a gunfight so that when you do kill them, you've taken the entire control of like the upper or western part of a map to then be able to pressure sight. But your whole point is taking space. And then for arguably the most complicated and hardest role to play in the entire game is the flex role. Now, the reason that this is so complicated to talk about is because what operators fit into this role can change depending on what you consider to be a flex operator. Something that I consider to be a flex operator isn't just an operator that doesn't fit any of the other categories. It's not just an operator that can do a little bit of everything. It's an operator that you pick whenever you need to help out your team in ways that only that operator can help out, right? So a support player like Thermite or Ace wouldn't be a flex because they are meant to do one thing. Somebody like Flores can do a multitude of different things. Somebody like Capitao can do a multitude of different things and be able to help out the team when necessary. So let's take a look at somebody like Lion, for example. This is probably one of, if not the best flex operators on attack right now. Probably Dokkaebi, but Lion's definitely up there as well. He has so much utility, right? If he wants to play as a secondary support, he has EMP grenades. If he wants to help out in a flex sort of way, he has his Gaunt 6 to be able to destroy shields and a very good weapon. If he wants to play like a fragger, he has his Lion scans and he has a great weapon as well. So he can play in any way that the team needs. You can't say that about most operators, right? So you pick a flex operator to be able to fill in the hole that your team needs in their attack or in their defense for that matter as well. These operators tend to bring a lot of utility, a lot of soft destruction, and are just good to fill in and use your own strats with if you don't know what else to pick. Now, I will say, because of the versatility that these operators bring, that means you need to be able to know how to play every single role. So if you have your hard support die within the first 5 seconds of the round, or you have an entry lose the 1v1 on the entry in the first 5 seconds, you have to be able to then pick up their role. So if you have an Amaru that runs into sight and dies, then they need another fragger. And if you don't have another fragger lined up, like you don't have a second entry or a third entry, you as a flex player have to fill in that gap and start to use your utility and your time and your gun skill to be able to play as an entry. The same goes for support. If you have somebody like Capitao or Habana even could be considered a flex, maybe, then if the hard support dies, you need to fill in and then be able to play in a hard support kind of way. And that doesn't just mean using your utility in a fragger or hard support kind of way. It means your positioning. It means how aggressive or passive you are. It means how you take control of the map, whether it's with utility or with using gun skill. It's a lot of things, right? And I haven't even talked about defense. Good defense flex operators include Frost, Clash, Maestro, Legion, Echo, Wamai, Malusi, Thunderbird, Doc, Rook, Pulse, arguably Mute. Operators that can kind of do what needs to be done on both fronts. Castle's a great example of a flex. He can set up sight and play in a super supportistic way by playing off of his castles and completely changing the tide of how attackers have to run into the site with his castle barricades, but he can also frag out with a 1.5 and use his castle barricades to get kills, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can play him. Same thing with Clash. You can play Clash in a very supportistic way by standing in a doorway and just shocking people, or you can play her in a really aggressive way like a Monty player and take space, use information, use her pocket F2 to be able to just kill people. There's a lot of different ways that you can play her. If you have people on your team that die that needed to fill in a certain role, you can then fill in that role with Clash. So great example of a flex player, very complicated to kind of teach and understand, but it's basically filling in for what your team needs. But with all of that out of the way, that is all of the roles in Rainbow Six Siege. If you want to get better at the game of Rainbow Six Siege, sub to the channel down below. If you want free coaching from a player who gets paid to make content and gets paid to play the game, it's literally free if you just join my Discord server down below. Fill out a Google form, select the rank, and I will coach you every Thursday on my YouTube channel for free. With that being said, if you like the video, like it down below. My name is Alka, and I will see you in the next one. Later.